Actually, my experience with corn growers, as I said, it started based on a lie a fella told me. Being Gary Marshall, he's a retired CEO of Missouri Corn Growers now, but we were at a meeting. We were both members of an ag fraternity, and I was emceeing a alumni meeting, and we were having a pretty good time. I like for people to have a good time, we were at a banquet or something like that, and after it was over, Gary come up to me and he said, Ryland, he said, you ought to be thinking about being on the Missouri Corn Grower Board. And I said, Gary, as a member of the Missouri Corn Growers Board, we worked with our state government, and we set up a program that would give a tax credit to people who would invest in ethanol. Wasn't all that much money, but it was a start for us in Missouri to entice some people to maybe think about building an ethanol plant. Anyhow, we didn't have any ethanol plants at that time. But through the work with Missouri Corn Growers, it led me to the National Corn Growers. Then while at the National Corn Growers, I got appointed or elected to be a market development chairman. And that's when the words ethanol really started to resonate and really got an understanding, what it could mean to us. And then that led to my meeting or introduction to the members of the RFA, the Renewable Fuel Association. That was all new to me, but at the time, I was serving as the market development chairman, we met with the members of the RFA. At that time, there wasn't that many. Beacon Energy, ADM, Minnesota Corn Processors, Cargill, a few others. But that's where I first met Bob Deneen with Renewable Fuel Association. At that time, Bob Deneen was a smaller guy than I am. But we had a great time, established, quite a bit of companionship of working with the different issues. It was tough at the start because ethanol wasn't known like it is now. I think total production of ethanol back in those days, this on 95 or 96, was about 650 million gallons, and that was it. But anyhow, it's led to a great industry. Honestly, we kind of came in at the back door to form Mid-Missouri Energy. There was a gentleman who came into our area, and he said, I'm going to build an ethanol plant. And he didn't visit with any farmers in the area, really. And I hadn't even heard of this gentleman, but some of the people at the local town said, this gentleman's thinking about farming an ethanol plant. Don't you think we ought to have some kind of description or discussion with him of what he's planning on doing? So there were about 165 of us that met one evening to talk about ethanol and maybe this new adventure that was coming to Saline County. So we had discussions with him, and they weren't very fruitful. It just looked like this gentleman, he wanted to maintain all the ownership of the ethanol plant if he was going to build one, and we as farmers were going to go out and raise the money and contribute to it. So honestly, that first effort didn't go anywhere. And maybe 2 or 3 months after that, the economic director of the city of Carrollton, her name was Patty Kinder, called me and said, we've got some people coming down from an ethanol company, a construction company. She said, I wonder if you would come over. I lived in Alma, Missouri, but she wanted to know if I'd come to Carrollton and visit with some of the local farmers there about building an ethanol plant. And I said, of course, I'd be glad to do that. She knew that I had served as president of the National Corn Growers. She knew that the meeting we had with those individual who wanted to build the ethanol plant on his own, that I had conducted a meeting with farmers trying to see how we could work with that man. And she knew of that meeting. And so when this was starting to happen, she asked if I'd come over and meet with some of her farmers in that area, which I gladly did. And that is what led to probably, 15 of us, 15 men and women, just took it upon ourselves to see what we could do and start this program. And we did, and that's what led to it. We did several meetings trying to develop a strategy, and we picked out a person that we thought we would work with in building an ethanol plant. Turned out to be Fagan. So we met with some of their folks, and one thing after another, we decided, well, we're going to go for it. And so us 15 men and women developed a program where we did meetings all over 7 or 8 county area. Did about 150 of them all together, I think. We were doing like 3 a day. And we were going out and meeting with folks and telling them what we wanted to do. And we were kind of surprised because in the past, it had taken a while to put ethanol plants together. But we started our program, and they were saying at the time, well, we got our funding together. We raised a little over $24 million on our own. Able to go out and borrow the rest. So we had about $60 million ready to go to build a plant. That's how we got started. Back then when we were starting, corn was $2, maybe even less. I can remember the year I was president or vice president of the National Corn Growers. We had a meeting in California and the National Convention. Corn prices were $1.50, $1.60. Not good at all. Wasn't any fun. Oil was trading at $40 a barrel. And so it just happened that people were looking for something else, something they could add value to their grain. We were in an area that if it wasn't being consumed by livestock, well, it was put on a barge, it was loaded on a train and shipped out of the area. Ethanol wasn't around. And so people liked our idea. And from that, we took off. Shortly after we got our ethanol plant up and running, I think corn was around $2.25, and we were selling ethanol for about $1.25 when we first started, $1.25 a gallon. But the second year that we were up and running, we had a great year. Timing was perfect, and we were doing well, so to speak. We had a lot of debt yet, but at the same time, people in the area were pleased with what was happening. And shortly, we started passing out dividends. And when the dividends started coming out, we saw farmers going into the ag dealer or the local automobile dealer and started buying something. They liked it. And I think of the local manufacturer grain bin business. He told me, he said, you all are the best thing that's ever happened to this area. How's that? And he said, well, people are buying grain bins. They're storing grain on the corn, on the farm, just to keep, to go into the ethanol plant. So it had a tremendous positive impact on the area. Being there at the start, so to speak, and seeing the volume that it has grown, it's hard to imagine. It really is. But I can't help but wonder, what would it be like if we hadn't developed the ethanol industry? We're producing 15 billion bushels of corn a year now. A third of it, maybe even more, is going into the production of ethanol. If that wasn't happening, $1.50 corn would probably look like a good price. But it's been great to see the industry expand as it has. I think of our own local plant here. When we first started, we sold ethanol, we sold distillers grain, and that was about it. We did get some CO2 sold, and we're capturing CO2 here now and using it. But the industry has expanded so many ways now. Corn oil is being spun off. We've grown a lot. We've learned a lot. When we first started here, we thought if we get 2.5 gallons of ethanol out of a bushel, that's probably about it. And now we're over 3. And we've gotten a lot more efficient and hopefully more prosperous. As I said, our second and third year that we were in business, we hit it luckily. MTBE was declared a carcinogen and it was on its way out. And the refiners were looking for an oxygenate, and it happened to be ethanol. And our second or third year in business, we earned enough money to pay off our debt on this plant. And when that happened, then I felt like we were going to be a success. We didn't know that at the start, there's no doubt. When I was part of this group of 15 men and women who were out making our sales pitch, so to speak, to get shareholders, I can remember coming home every evening not every evening, but pretty close to it, my wife would ask me, said, "Are you proud of what you said today to your shareholders or potential shareholders?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Don't know that it's going to work, but we got to try." And sure enough, it did. And when everybody had their money back, then I knew we were ready to go. The success of the ethanol industry was very envied by lots of folks in agriculture. I know the local equipment dealer, the local fertilizer dealer have all seen great gains because of this plant being here. And people were able to go out once, we've achieved success and dividends were being put out. Machinery was being upgraded. The local fertilizer dealer, he handles grain also, and in some ways we were competitors. We're trying to buy grain, and normally it's grain that he gets, but he could also understand. He said, "My fertilizer use is going up. The seed that I'm selling from seed corn is going up." So he was benefiting from that side of the industry too. Even though we were kind of competitors for the corn that was in the area, he saw benefits because of the increased ag inputs that he was selling. The success of this plant really spread itself out through the ag industry here. Local banks, they were pleased to see it happen. What I'm most proud of probably would be the success of this plant. This plant has probably returned 11 or 12 times the money people invested. And we had people investing in this plant that were literally using all of their savings, in some cases borrowing more money to make that initial purchase. And because we've been successful enough to return them, everybody had to buy at least $20,000 worth of stock. So if we've returned 11 or 12 times that money, they've gotten close to $250,000 back. And that I'm probably the most proud of. And still, we have a wonderful facility here that's still earning money. I think there's always going to be a place for renewable energy, especially renewables. But there's going to be a place for corn ethanol, I think, from here on out. I think it's going to be very important for our country to have all kinds of energy available to us. And we've proven how successful we can be, how much we can provide. So we got 15 billion gallons of ethanol going into a market or something like that. That's important. And we're going to need that. Energy demands are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know whether electric cars are going to make it. I don't know wind turbines are going to make it. I know ethanol is making it, and it's important to the economy, the farm economy. If we didn't have it, we'd fall flat on our face, honestly. So for our industry, we can produce the food, we can produce fiber, and we can also produce energy. And I think there will be a great place for ethanol in the future.